Live from New York, it's Ask an Engineer.
Hi, everybody. It's me, Lady Ada, and welcome to Ask an Engineer. We're broadcasting live from Brooklyn. It's me, Lady Ada, with me, Mr. Lady Ada, camera control, and does pretty much everything else in the company except for
Who knows?
running Legal Cat.
That's not true.
We've got an exciting show for you tonight. Lots of new products, some coming soon, and of course, our new feature, Tariff Talk. Let's tell them what's on tonight's show.
I report to everyone in the company, so I'm willing to get that special fitting pair of gloves for you, all the way to working on reports in Python to figure out tariff charges. But tonight, I'm making deals.
Glove purchasing.
I'm making deals.
You get a lot of glove and mask purchasing from people.
I love
hand sanitizer.
I love deals.
Okay.
Tonight's code is Noid. And I'll talk about why it's Noid in a little bit. Well, it's because our product tonight is going to be about solenoids or star, but I'm going to talk about Noid later. So 10% off an A for star the way up to 11:59 p.m. And I'll also talk about some pizza internet history. We'll do a little bit of a recap for show and tell, and then we'll show some JP's product pick of the week. We have our special new segment, Tariff Talk with Lady Ada. That's right, Tariff Talk. Just some talk about tariffs, no big whoop. If we have time, we'll talk about some open source hardware, including some of our products that we released and published. We have some 3D videos. We have Ion MPI brought to you by DigiKey. New Haven Display this week. We've got new products. We got some top secret. And the questions that we're going to answer will probably be related to tariffs and stuff, but we'll see what else is going on. We have some from the chats and more throughout the week that you posted on socials. So we'll be doing some questions, but you can put them in Discord now or later. Adafruit.it/discord at discord.gg.
Join us.
Build the future with us. All that more on Ask an Engineer.
Woot.
All right. Money. So anyways, for the code, which is Noid, do you remember this? Do you know what this is? Do you remember this?
No,
You don't. Some people will, and some people won't.
This was like back when claymation was like really big.
So Domino's Pizza had this character called Avoid the Noid in the 80s, and it was their like popular character. And then it went away. There was debate about some of the reasons it went away, but then it came back, and then it's been in some video games and some other things in some pop culture. So that's some pizza history. But one of the things I didn't realize is because I was thinking about this, and then I did some research, and it went back to our own website. I said, oh wow, that was 1984,
right?
And the big pizza story I like to write about is the one called PizzaNet. That's the first licensed and bundled internet operating system from Pizza Hut, and that was in 1994. And this is our most popular blog post because it gets on like every website once in a while because we just showed the screenshot, and it's really neat that Pizza Hut was doing this. So there's a different version of the world where like Pizza Hut is the internet. So the cool thing is somehow when I was just doing Noid research, there's a video game. So in 1989, Domino's Pizza licensed Noid, and it was created in claymation by Will Winton Productions.
I think he did a bunch of the claymation characters of the 80s, yeah.
And I got this. This is a playthrough that someone put on YouTube, and this is the original, like right off the game.
What did it play on? Like
I have to look, but I was just putting this together really fast. In the background, it might be playing a little bit, but I'll play it at the end of the show. And this is the game, Avoid the Noid, and they did this in 1989. So this is before PizzaNet.
Okay.
And I think this might be one of the first like brand pizza games. There's there's lots of pizza video games, but this is like a character.
Yeah.
And then there's Pizza Castle recently, and I think they called it the Noise, and there's one of the villains is like modeled after the Noid. But we have a solenoid product. I want it to be Noid, and then I started looking at this stuff, and like, this is a 1989 game, and we're doing Fruit Jam. So it all kind of, in my mind, this is all very connected.
Yeah.
Save 10% off. Okay.
Cool.
Yeah, well, you took a nap, so I had a little bit of time.
I'm glad. Yeah,
Okay.
there's no time to.
So we have free stuff that y'all know. We're not going to go over it. You know what it is.
Free stuff, free
Yeah.
shipping.
And then in New York,
same day shipping.
We just did the show and tell. I think the cool thing you should check out is Jay from DigiKey stopped by.
Hey, shoot a little
and had some crab bots. And then I asked Jay some very important questions about robotics that I had.
Yeah.
And Jay
I'm glad you got those questions answered.
Mm-hmm. And then I also mentioned that we talked to our friends at DigiKey today because we're dealing with all this tariff stuff as well. And we had some questions for them and some plans that we wanted to figure out if it made sense as we all navigate this. And then we also had our team who came by. And check out the latest from Trevor working on the video game that we're calling The Great Search. We'll have a little bit of a preview in the top secret section this week. JP with some cool guitar action. Melissa had this really neat retro game. We're in this retro game mode right now.
Yeah, maybe she'll avoid the Noid next. I don't know.
Yeah, and then Squid Dutch Epic stopped by and had this really cool. I thought it looked like a luxury space liner ship, like insert for where this space station thing is, and that's what they said they're going after. And then some other projects as well. You can watch it. And then on the weekends we do Desk of Lady Ada and Great Search. I want to just use the time we normally use here to mention this Sunday, unless something comes up and we have to move the time of the show. We're going to show what it's like to use DigiKey Search right now when tariff price might matter for your bill of materials.
Yeah.
So tune into that. This is why we have Great Search. Before it was about chip shortages. So this is really important. It'll be online in every way. You don't have to watch it live or anything. But if you have questions, of course, get it to us. But that's a big deal. And then
we'll search for something, but then we'll talk about tariffs.
And on Tuesday, we do JP's Product Pick of the Week. And that will be the next segment. JP is off this Thursday. So just keep that in mind if you're thinking about watching Workshop. They'll be returning next week. But here's Product Pick of the Week.
Is the 1.28-inch round TFT display breakout, 240 by 240 pixels. Use it over SPI. You can use iSpy to plug it in with a nice, easy, flexible PCB ribbon connector, or you can solder to the pins there, put it on a breadboard. There's the display, which I just taped down instead of screwing into place. There is my Cutie Pie and the breakout there. I've got some Display I/O text flashing at the top that says alert. I've got some Display I/O circle and lines there. I have this great comet or meteorite BMP bouncing around here inside of a reticle. You can see it is just a gorgeous display. If I go to some oblique angles here, 1.28-inch round 240 by 240 SPI TFT display breakout with iSpy and micro SD card.
3D Hangouts on Wednesdays. And then depending if it's Scott or Tim, we have Deep Dive. So Lady Ada, we're going to be talking about some tariffs pretty soon. But I want everyone to remember Noid is the code. And if you're old enough, you know, I'm kind of got caught in some research about the Noid with Domino's Pizza. So I thought that was kind of funny. I'm going to show this commercial at the end along with the video game footage. I thought that was neat. So let's do some Tariff Talk. Tariff Talk with Lady Ada, your weekly show where you learn about tariffs and we talk. I want it to be like the McLaughlin Hour and like SNL, the SNL skits like Pat Buchanan, what do you think? Wrong. I thought that'd be funny. Anyways, let's do a little bit of a recap because today is Wednesday, April 9th, and it was crazy. Throughout the day, we were talking to partners, we were talking to other folks because tariffs mean it might be more expensive to make things no matter where you get parts. But a lot of parts come from China. So in the last few years, of course, there was tariffs before. We got through that. We figured it out. And this was potentially a whole bunch of new things that we would need to do on every inbound shipment because we would want to know how much tariff per component per SKU per.
Yeah.
So here's the recap for today. Just to give you an idea of what's going on. This is like today. So the tariffs on Chinese goods, this is all about, by the way. There was another distraction, which I'll talk about in a second. But anyways, they were raised today. So it's from 84% to 125%. Basically, most companies are not going to be able to function if this is what they're going to have to pay.
I'm not actually 100% sure about the total tariff rate.
Neither am I.
But by the way, nobody
is.
Yeah.
Nobody is.
It's at least 125, and it could be higher.
It could be higher, although it could be up to 170. Who knows? So the next thing is other countries, 10% of tariff across the board. The April 5th, that still applies, but it's paused. The higher ones are paused for 90 days, just keeping them at 10% now, except for China, which is 125%. The de minimis is ending May 2nd, so that means anything that you send or get from China, it'll go from $25 to $75 per package, or it could be
per line item,
or it could be or a flat fee. It's a little alternative duty, or it'll just be 30% to 90%, and they're ending this under $800 thing. So
but it could be totally different. I haven't checked the news in like 10 minutes.
Can be, and so what happens is we get asked a lot of questions from places like the news, because it's like, what are you doing? What are you doing with tariffs? And folks in the chat will be able to add what's important to them too. So there's currently no tariffs or semiconductors from China or Taiwan. Then people
but that's misleading, because what you think of as semiconductor might not be. It depends on the HTS code.
Yeah. So this is why
that's
it
like
matters.
it could be a very specific thing. A sensor might not count as a semiconductor, even though it's something that you place on a PCB.
Yeah. So this is the other thing. The classification of these things is going to be often wrong. So when our team and all of us came together, and we're going to go into like what Adafruit's doing, because that's this video and this little segment we're doing is to help get the word out to as many people as we can, to help the outside folks. And then our team, we have remote team members. We have folks that I haven't been able to meet with yet. We did meet with a lot of folks throughout the week. It's like, when you hear what's going on in the news, it's like, these are end times. Yeah, maybe, but there is a way through it. We just have to be like really smart. So just the short version from Adafruit before we get into like what's going on in the rest of the world and how these things are related is we just want to be the most accurate on what is being charged for what. And I think one day, if we're getting into tariffs now, that means we're going to get tariff audited later. Because if you do sales tax now, you're going to get sales tax audited later. So we want to make sure like everything is very clear, because there could be times of day where the tariff rate changed. When did it leave? When was it landing?
Yeah.
Lots of terminology too. So here's what's going on in the news right now with this. So Nintendo was caught in a unfortunate timing issue. They were launching Switch 2, and they, for the first time, or from what I understand, it's not common, didn't put the price in it because this got announced.
Yeah.
And
but they did, and they removed it like 10 minutes.
Yeah,
like
and
$450 or something.
And here's what I'm not going to do. I'm not going to refer to this tariffs as Liberation Day tariffs, because that is, I think, trying to cause. Because I was writing up what our stuff was, and the team member said, that they made me think about that, and they had a good point. And I also thought that it's already kind of making fun of something that's like, this is really serious. So, anyways, these tariffs are happening, and Nintendo. Their current Switches are either it's $350 for the OLED one and $300 for the like regular one. I think around that.
Yeah.
So they're probably like thinking it was going to be $400 and $450. This is just a guess, and like I'm a fan, so I tried to read up on some of the stuff. But obviously that's unpredictable right now. And if you do a pre-order and later on, let's say you buy a Switch 2 for $400, when you get that, there might be up to another $100 you have to pay for it.
Or 300.
Or 300. Nobody knows. So pre-orders are not a good idea for maybe anyone. And then in the chat, which everyone should check, which I'm going to show some of these things, DigiKey is considered a foreign trade zone, only charges tariffs based on source and destination countries. So there's things, and we'll get into that in a second, that can happen, but this is like, get really smart about this really fast, especially if you are a small business. What did all these TikTok shops that I'm sure everyone sees do? Well, TikTok is like, by the way, the de minimis, which is separate from this, is going away. So starting May 2nd, those packages that you got from Temu or Shein or AliExpress or Taobao that just sailed through, that had no taxes, no fees, no anything, those will be a per package charge of maybe 75 or per line charge of 75 or 30% of value or 90%, and there's no under $800 it sales in. And you're probably saying, well, I'll just have them put low dollar values. Maybe that'll work, maybe, but
well, no, that's why there's the minimum charge.
And that's why there's a minimum charge.
Of $75 or $150.
Maybe that'll work, but think about what you're doing because you still get a per charge. So I think they know that.
Yeah. Well, they even said like
they.
to make sure people didn't put values that were like 50 cents.
Yeah. And then the things, yeah, I guess I shouldn't look at what's going on because I think there's more notes. And then some mysteries are happening. So anyways, just actually, let me go back to this de minimis thing. So there is a future, I guess, if things don't change, where the postal person, I suppose, will say, "Hi, I'm here with your, TikTok shop order, and you paid. I see online it's $100, and so please give me another $100. I'm the postal guy.
Yeah,
give me that money.
Yeah,
or I won't give you this package. I'm standing in front of your house with your package, and I'm not going to give it to you. You give me that money. That's not going to work. I don't know.
I mean, I think they're going to make people go to the post office, but then people just like they'll just scream and throw things at the post office.
Do you think there's going to be an app called like Waiter for your postal, Waiter for your tariffer?
I mean, I think people will order stuff.
People will pay people to wait at the post office
quickly, but then they'll, after the first round, they'll
stop. So we're reporting the facts, and then there's a couple of things that are like, that's weird. So Framework, who makes these like cool laptops that you can repair and do stuff, they're pausing sales to US for certain models, and then like everyone's like, why are they doing it for this, and what does it matter? And what looks like it is those are the ones that are hard for them to have margins on, so they might not be able to sell them in the US in any form with 125% margins. So the other thing is it's unclear how all this is going to work out. The de minimis thing was removed briefly, and then it was added back in the same day. And how are they going to collect this money? Are they going to destroy your things if you don't pay for it? This can all be communicated, but it's not going to, because that's just not how this works. And I'm not, again, this is just like reporting how it is. There was nothing on Sunday night that said, hey, on Monday, these are going to happen. Business owners, brace yourself. What we're in the middle of and what we're all living through is an emotional game that has nothing to do with this stuff. These are just levers to be used, and we're just in this. But everything's technology. So Framework is pausing sales on some of their things. Razer pausing direct laptop sales in the US as new tariffs loom. I thought this was neat. iFixit had some points where like, hey, if there's a bunch of tariffs, maybe it'll make things more repairable, or a desire to. But here's how much the iPhone might be if they have to pay the tariffs. And, it's an extra $200-$300.
But where does iFixit make their stuff?
We'll buy some other stuff.
Where do they make it? Do they make it in the US? I don't know. I don't think so.
That's one of the questions that everyone will have. Where's something made? What does it mean? Where does it mean to be made?
Where are the replacement TFTs for iPhones made?
Yeah,
they're not made in the US, guys.
Yeah. So
neither are the batteries.
Yeah, and I think this is the conversation, the opportunity that we all have to have kind of immediately. It's like, what is actually important to be made in the US? And I think we have to, over time, either have leadership that understands how it's a worldwide market or not. It's like there's certain things that even if we started now and everybody put everything behind it, it's not possible to build the things to make electronics in the US. It'll be possible one day to make more of the things, but not all the things. And it's not like you can just make an 80% iPhone. It's not like we can make 80% of Fruit Jam. So the other thing is I'm like, oh, I wonder what Particle's doing. So I'm like, hey, let me go over to their blog. They did a good job. They did FAQ. And you can check out Particle's blog. The thing that I was curious about was, because we're a partner with Particle and a successful Kickstarter.
Yeah.
Kickstarter has campaigns that people buy into, and they eventually get charged when they say the campaign was successful, and then eventually you get your stuff. But what happens if you're a backer? Between backing and getting your thing, there's a tariff on that thing because it's coming from China.
Yeah.
And it's another $125 on a $200 thing. What does that mean?
Actually, I backed this SE30 mold. Although I think they're doing the mold in America or China or in Canada. I don't know. We'll find out because I already paid for it.
Yeah.
And it's shipping.
Yeah. And so
and a lot of these Kickstarters, by the way, they ship direct from the Chinese factory with FedEx.
yeah. Oh, all those TikTok shops, they go directly from China
direct
too.
from China.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just like Shen or Temu or those. That's where it's coming from.
Yeah, but not Postal, UPS, or
Yeah.
FedEx. UPS and FedEx are very strict about the tariff.
Yeah.
You know, you can't lie about the value.
No. So this is interesting, and I think Kickstarter. I mean, you know, this all really kind of hit the fan, as they say, on Monday. Hopefully, they'll be posting some guidance. But you know, I was thinking Particle, could they have their tachyon stuff? So then, you know, of course, we're hearing the rumors that are going around with, you know, the bigger companies that are out there. Like there's 5 planes filled with iPhones, and people are doing the math. And I guess apparently Apple flies in iPhones or devices for events, so they have a bunch on hand in the US, of course. So something like $1 billion worth of iPhones can be
iPhone strategic reserve.
Yeah, it can be like flown in. It's 5 full airplanes.
To be fair, I'm still using like an iPhone 13.
Yeah.
That's fine.
So, but that just means, will people make do, or then what will happen after it's too expensive? Will they replace stuff? So, you know, these are all publicly held companies too. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. I think the next stage is everyone will sing for their supper. I don't know if that's a phrase anymore, but it'll all be about, okay, so this business leader went to Mar-a-Lago or the White House and they announced that they're exempt or something. It seems like that's the future we're going to get. And again, this isn't an endorsement of anything or condemning anything. It's saying that's probably what's going to happen because that's what happened before. There was exemptions for tariffs and there was lots of things and there's just classifications. What would be good is if this is going to be our new future, new normal, to classify things like if something is never going to be made, not made in the US, like these resistors or these capacitors, these other things, or these certain chips, the word semiconductor is used. Everything has to be really well defined now. It would be nice to be clear about what's important for America to do in the US. And let's really be specific about it. Is it to make a chip fab? Probably not.
Well, the thing doesn't make any sense to me because like people are like, well, you know, you have like a pick and place line in New York. So like you're an American manufacturer. And I'm like, yeah, I'm the factory that people say that they want. But the raw materials don't come from America. Like PCBs, you can get PCBs in America, although it's very hard to get small quantities. They really only want to sell large quantities. It's like military applications. No connector is made in America. No resistor or capacitor is made in America. I mean, some of them are made in the Philippines, some are in Taiwan, but like a lot of connectors, honestly, are made in China. And there's connectors in everything. So I don't, you know, it's like even if you get your semiconductors and they're from the Philippines, because a lot of semiconductors don't come from China, to be honest. Espressif chips do. But like, you know, your RP2350 is packaged in the Philippines, probably, or Taiwan or whatever. So even if you get some of your components and you manufacture them in the US, you're still going to get hit by the PCB cost, your connectors cost, your passives cost, your packaging cost. Like there's a lot of other stuff that's going to, like, there's no way to have a fully all in America made electronic device. It's just not possible.
Yeah. So
TFTs and OLEDs and switches are not made in the US.
Here's what I think. I think we really need to be smart about this as a country and as maybe educators or communicators. So maybe there is that goal of making all of it in the US one day, but the steps to get there mean having some of the stuff made elsewhere while we're getting those capabilities. It really isn't a switch that can be flipped. It's economic damage. We can get there, but destroying every company along the way isn't actually going to get you there faster. In fact, the demand will get to the point where who would want to invest in doing this after those companies all crater? So I think it's kind of like some of the words I hear, because there's this political streak of what is part of all of what we do now that you can't just get rid of. So the confirmation hearing for the NASA administrator, the question was, okay, we really want to go to Mars, but we know there's this like moon thing. So this guy has to like get approved by, a very like split. Let's just say our world is split, our country is split by two groups of people. And so you have to use certain words. And the words he was saying is, we're going to go to Mars. That's a priority. But on the way, it'll probably be easier to do some moon stuff. They have to you have to do the smart people and people like who need to hear this. Of course the moon makes more sense. And if you're going to Mars and back or even at least trying, the moon is like on its way, which it isn't, but it's like you can imagine, you have to acknowledge that like that might be part of this. So I think for this like moonshot that we're getting told about, high schoolers will be trained in robotics and learn mechanics, and we'll have a new machine working class that's going to build all these things. Cool. Do the vision.
I would if there were TFT and OLED and connector and switch and PCB, PC manufacturers in America that could do what I need to get done, I would use them.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. Who's going to decide to start a TFT or OLED assembly factory here? Get the components from Taiwan, import them, assemble them into a finished TFT product, and then vend them into the United States when there's a risk that in 3 years these tariffs will get, or 4 years, these tariffs will get undone. And now your factory will get like demolished by some other country. Like it's too unstable.
Yeah.
Right.
And the deals that have to happen are so outside of all of our leagues. And there's like some things that can be done, but for the next, 3-4 years, what's possible and what's not possible. So I think one of the things that we're gonna have to do is say like, we could. It's possible to get to a place where a lot of stuff is made in the U.S. But to get there, we all have to survive. And to survive, please start acknowledging that some stuff isn't made in the US and we assemble things here. And it can work out. This is,
and to be honest,
very drastic and dramatic.
People, look, I have a factory. People run the machine line. It's kind of fun to run the machine line, but it's not as much fun as sitting down all day at a computer. Like you're up and moving and you're doing, and you have to keep track of this machine, and it's unrelenting.
It's a different type of work, and it is for some people, and
it's not for a lot of people.
Yeah, and so I think like I said,
if you make like a tiny little mistake, like you destroy all the product.
It's like that tequila thing that we were talking about before. It's not just one mistake; it's like 10,000 mistakes.
You swap 2 reels by accident, and it's over.
It's happened.
Like, what are you going to rework 10,000 boards?
So I think one of the things is like the people who make things have to realize when they talk, they're going to be heard by the people who are in like political mindset or on X and on Facebook, and then there's the people that are in politics that are going to be saying things that people in the engineering community are like, you're using the word wrong. You can't just say like, oh, we'll just print a factory. Like, so there's this like.
Well, I saw one guy who said like, oh, if injection molding it's only done in China, which it pretty much only is done in China now. Okay, well, we should just 3D print everything instead. And it's like, wow, like you have no.
Yeah.
It's like that is not how it works.
Or you have people that have been appointed, because this is what happens when elections happen. There's people appointed that are not used to what this technology that is moving very fast. They're calling it like, oh, the A1 things that are very important. They mean AI happens. It's not steak sauce. So I think that there's a lot of things that there has to be an education on what it means to make a thing. And so
like we make stuff. Like we have a factory. Like I'm not like, oh, I have no idea what it's like to have a factory. Like we make stuff, but I also know where all my raw materials come from. And none of them come from China, but a lot of them do.
And like, of course, we're proud Americans, and we're also proud humans who want to have a global society that gets along. I want a united federation of planets, and I want to live in a Star Trek utopia future one day.
There's a lot of TFT screens on those.
Everything's made out of screens. We got to figure this out, man. So anyways, I think that there's a way forward, but I also understand that, like, unfortunately, the way that people are getting rewarded is by thrusting upon cruelty and change and things that are hurtful. There's another way to do it, but I understand that that's not the way it works. At least not the way it works anymore. And so something has to change. This is a way for change to happen. It is a very hard way on a lot of companies. I'll tell you the hardest thing is if anyone asks, should I do a business right now? Should I invest? Should I do this? Should I do this? Or if you were to ask really CEOs and CFOs, is now the time to do a large expenditure, hire more people, do all these things. They'll probably say, definitely not this week. Can we wait until the tariffs aren't changing every 12 hours?
Yeah. It's actually, the inconsistency is very difficult too,
Yeah.
because it's like, last night there was tariffs on Vietnam, right? 48%, whatever. And,
There was and there wasn't.
and then now there isn't. And it's like, it's a little
So-
shocking. But then like in 90 days there might be. So it's,
So as like makers and everyone, and I know like the maker companies, like we all used to be more tight and then like it got competitive, but we do try to reach out to all the ones that we still talk with. I did want to point out, and I'll put this in show notes and other stuff later. DigiKey had a really good article that someone wrote about them. This is E! News Europe, how DigiKey tackles tariffs. They're also, of course, that free zone thing that we talked about. And, people in Discord and other places were like, can you talk about what you are specifically going to do? Can we hear about, like, besides just raise your prices, what can you do? And then someone was like, is there anything we can stock up on? And when we wrote about this, we're doing an enormous amount of reporting because I was telling our team, the only thing we could do right now is be accurate because there's so many unknowns. So when the tariffs do come in, and we do know, then we could say, here's how much we're spending, here's how much it costs. Can we do different things? Can we use different chips? This chip is only made in China. Can we substitute a chip?
Yeah, like for example, you like espresso stuff, especially from Adafruit, you should buy it right now because espresso stuff just went from being tariff 10%
There you go.
to 150, 20, I don't even know, percent. And that is, espresso specifically only manufactures in China. Stuff with TFTs and OLEDs, NeoPixel like LEDs. Those LEDs are only made in China. They are not made anywhere else. They're only made by 2 companies in China. So, LEDs and LED strips and displays and espresso stuff. Not everything is, obviously not everything is made in China. We have actually a lot of Raspberry Pis, for example, are not made in China. They're made in the UK. Some of their accessories are made in China, and you'll see those prices change.
This is the thing. It is a global world. It is kind of hard to do things, but I understand this is a challenge. It's time to do hard things. If there was some time inserted, just like the 90 days for the rest of the countries to have China and the US figure it out, I understand there's urgency too, but we have to still have goods coming in. The most important thing is how do we take good care of our employees, our team, and our community? And we have to know how much we're going to be charged for things. And it is so hard. So Lemore's been going into founder mode, which you hear like in like Hacker News community or like startup community. It's like Lemore is the founder that does the engineering. She can write lots of Python code, and you're doing things to make sure we understand exactly what we're getting charged from DHL, from AFS.
It's really, really hard to know what you're charged for tariffs because the bill comes after. So, one thing actually, like people say, like, well, I don't understand why is it like if your parts are now 10% more expensive or 20% more expensive, why does the final cost become 20% more expensive? Why doesn't it just become more expensive by that $1 tariff? And it's because the tariffs are charged when the thing enters. It's part of the cost of goods. It's part of the inventory holding cost, right? It's like shipping costs. If the shipping costs go up, it's like everything goes up. So trying to figure out what we're actually being charged for tariffs because there's exemption. And then you think it's coming from one country, maybe it's actually the country of origin is something different. It's really hard to find out because the reporting is really, really bad. Like the documents are clearly it's designed for bureaucracy. It's designed to keep a lot of people in the government employed. I hate to say it, but it's just not, it's not machine readable. They don't make it so it's like you can plug it into an LLM or a spreadsheet or download it via an API. You get this printout with all these lines everywhere. So it's really hard to parse. And they just have this text and you kind of have to learn how to decode it. And, when it's only a couple things and it's 10%, you kind of learn to live with it. You just sort of look at the total amount and you sort of do divide by. But, I'm getting packages now where half the shipment is being tariffed at 45% and half it is being tariffed at 0%. And so I need to know which is the item, I have to go line by line to figure out what item is being charged what tariff so I can increase the price on that item. And it's really, really complicated to figure this shit out because again, there's no API that I could make, if somebody knows one, let me know. As far as I can tell, all I can do is get this like ad sheet from the DHL website after logging in and like clicking on 6 different things, and I have to do it for every invoice, and then I have to parse it because it's only available as a PDF.
So you're hearing it from the trenches. And so that's our challenge now, is to be as accurate. We're probably going to put something on our website that here's how many tariffs we pay or how much it is. And then, we're open with pretty much everything about the company, and tell our story as we go through this. Will there be exemptions for educational electronic companies? Who knows? Will there be ways to do this, ways around this? Will be a new announcement next week, because there was an agreement because 2 guys got in the room and had tough talks and deals and stuff. Who knows?
I think also the frustrating thing is, it's like now there's this talk of like, well, some companies are going to get like exempted from these tariffs. It's like, okay, great. You know who's not going to get an exemption? Me, right? It's going to be Apple and Nintendo.
Or maybe not. Who knows? Like, this is the thing. What I want is to not spend any time being anxious about the future and just be accurate about the present.
But I want to be annoyed. Can I be annoyed?
There's this little guy here.
Oh, the annoyed. Yeah, I want to be annoyed.
That's why it's code Noid, everybody, because Lady is annoyed. Okay.
Kind of want some pizza now. That pizza, by the way, that pizza looked pretty good. It's like really like thick pizza with lots of cheese.
Yeah, it's like made out of felt and everything.
That's not what pizzas look like anymore.
So, anyways, the market agrees, everybody. Everything's okay now. And so let's...
by the way, nobody actually knows it's all...
Yeah.
Once this actually hits, it's going to be a little...
Yeah. So we're going to do this segment every week, just like we did chip shortage, just like we did our other thing. That is this week's... There's so many of us annoyed about this, Lady Ada. What are we going to do? Tariff Talk with Lady Ada. Okay, cool. Let's do open source hardware time. We have guides.
Yes, we did have a bunch of guides live today.
Yeah. Want to talk about
some fun ones. Okay, we've got the TLV 320 DAC breakout. Actually, it's like, you have to set this thing up over I2C, but I really do like this DAC because it has a Class D amp and a headphone amplifier. It's like a true headphone amp, so check it out. It's good quality. I2S, you don't require M-Clock. Chips Challenge on the Metro. This is a game that Melissa ported. So you can use a keyboard and DVI output to play video games on your Metro RP2350. We've got the Asteroid Watcher, really good timing, because like, do you want like the meteor of death to come and kill you? Well, unfortunately, there's only a 0.0008 chance that it'll happen, but it might. And then, I don't know if we covered this last week, but we've got the no code, no solder monitoring for Perfect Bread using our offline Whippersnapper software. Good.
Check out Playgrounds and more. We're going to do these 3D printing videos, and then on the other side, we're going to do Ion and PI. See you soon.
You can build your own Asteroid tracker using CircuitPython and a round TFT display. This project uses the NASA Sentry and Close Approach Objects API to display an asteroid's name, date, predicted distance from the Moon and Earth, and Earth impact percentage. The QtPy ESP32S3 drives a 1.28-inch round TFT display and features 2 megabytes of PS RAM. The iSpy BFF add-on board makes it easy to connect a TFT display to any QtPy or Xiao dev board. The CircuitPython code gets data from the NASA Sentry and Close Approach Objects APIs. It uses custom bitmap images and fonts to display a cute image of the Earth and animates an asteroid whizzing by every few seconds. We think this makes for a cool IoT demo that shows how to use animated bitmaps and dynamic data on a round TFT display. This is all you need to build this project. You can find links and a full tutorial at learn.adafruit.com. You can 3D print the parts to build the snap fit enclosure using your favorite PLA filament. A set of short matching headers make it easy to connect the QtPy to the iSpy BFF. A medium-length ribbon cable connects the iSpy BFF to the 1.28-inch round TFT display. The display features 2 mounting holes that make it easy to secure the PCB to the 3D printed enclosure. A right-angled USB connector makes it easy to access the USB-C port on the QtPy while it's secured inside the 3D printed case. We hope this inspires you to check out CircuitPython and Adafruit's
API.
Eye on NPI, brought to you by DigiKey and Adafruit. This week is New Haven Display International. Lady Ada brings you new products from around the world.
This time's literally around the world.
What is the new product introducer of the week this week?
Okay,
Lady
this
Ada?
week, a couple weeks ago, we had DigiKey over and we said, you guys should carry more round displays. And they're like, we're on it. And so actually this week they stocked a round display. This is a 2.1 inch diagonal round display. So it's interesting because it's much bigger than a 2.1 inch diagonal square display because it's round. So it's like 0.7 times more large. I don't know. Anyways, note that it's still a square grid of pixels. It's just that the pixels are cut off where the circle is round instead of square. And this display does not have a capacitive touch on it or resistive touch. It's just the display itself. But it is round 480 by 480 pixels. And what I really like about this is it comes with a couple of different pinout options or pinout configurations. This is what it looks like. If people really want, I can go and grab one. But basically, it's a round display. And then there's this kind of bezel at the bottom. And then the fold over TFT part. So, you're not going to get a perfectly round outline, but, you'll have a bezel of only a couple millimeters. And then there's a 40-pin FPC connector on the bottom, 0.5 millimeter pitch. And on the bottom, they say the driver. The driver is the ST7701S, which actually we worked with a lot. One thing I'll note is you need to download the initialization code for this because you have to configure the driver IC to know what kind of TFT it's connected to. And the interface is either RGB 666, so 18-bit parallel RGB, or one-lane MIPI DSI. Then you give it 3 volts for the TFT. I'm a little confused about the power supply because it says 6 volt for the backlight, but then the backlight, I guess it says double core. That could be 2 LEDs in a row. So you need 6 volts because that's actually 2 diodes in series, and then 5 of them in parallel. So you'll need a fairly good boost converter, especially if you're powering from 3 volts to give you that 100 milliamp constant current, but you'll give it a nice bright backlight. And it's an IPS TFT display, so you'll have visibility from 80 degrees all the way around. For the pinout, it's a 40-pin display. And one thing that's interesting is, unlike the RGB 666 displays that we've seen before, because they don't have the capacitive touch going through the FPC connector, they can have both RGB and MIPI available on the display pin connector. So if you look at the bottom, the last 3 pins are IM0, IM1, and IM2, and you can toggle those high and low according to the table at the bottom to select which kind of interface you want. And it does say, I just want to mention, at the bottom it says RGB plus SPI, but that isn't, the SPI is for the configuration, the RGB is for the raw data. So you do need to have both. You can't set the pixels over SPI, it's just for configuration. But what I do like is that they let you set it up with 8-bit or 16-bit SPI, so you don't need the DC pin, the data clock pin. You can just use chip select, data out, and clock out. So saves you 1 pin. And then you can also use MIPI, in which case you can configure with SPI, it looks like, but you can also just have the low-speed MIPI interface do the configuration of the display. So the MIPI display, I'll say not that many. It's nice because you only need 5 pins or 4 pins to do the setup, but not a lot of microcontrollers support it. You do have a DSI display on something like the Raspberry Pi. A lot of Linux boards and chips will have a DSI interface. You'll need to check out the kernel driver, but I've noticed that the ST7701S, which is the chip used in here, is supported. You just have to set up the configuration in the device tree overlay, and you're pretty much good to go. Another thing is some STM32 microcontrollers have MIPI. These are the high end. These are the STM F7s, H7s. They're kind of chunky. They're near Linux computer microcontrollers, but they do have a DSI interface. The other option is you can go with a less, there's a lot more pins required. You need 18 pins because it's a 666 RGB display plus the 3 SPI config. But you can use parallel port interface. So that's an option too. And if you do that, you can use something like the ESP32S3, which you'll use a lot of the pins, but it can actually drive a parallel display as shown here. This is not the same display as New Haven, but it's similar enough, so you get the idea. I also know that, like Pimoroni just released a product, I think, that uses the RP2350. And if you use like the 80 pin version, you can bang out an RGB TTL display as well. But the problem is you need to have, you don't necessarily have enough memory for the entire display, which is the challenge. You're going to do 18-bit color times 400 times 480 pixels. You're gonna need like many hundreds of K, if not megabytes of fast access RAM, which is why that the ESP32S3 is good because it has octal PSRAM. Or you can try maybe the new ESP-P4. I'll say I haven't used this chip, but I do know that they have both a MIPI DSI interface, and it also has, you see the connector on the top left. It has a lot of RAM built in, and also I think it has an RGB TTL interface. But RGB TTL, actually, to be honest, even the Raspberry Pi 4 and below had RGB TTL access, but like, again, it just uses like all the pins. You need 18 RGB, and then you need VSync, HSync, dot clock, and I think enable and something else. There's a lot. Anyways, if you want round displays, you can now get them. They're stocked at DigiKey, which is great because you want to pick them up right now. You can immediately interface it with your chip. If you're using an STM32, again, you're good to go. Just make sure that your microcontroller or microcomputer supports either MIPI 1 lane, which is rare, but more chips are coming out, or you have enough pins to do an RGB TTL display, because remember, you can't set the pixels with SPI. You got to use one of those two interfaces. But it's a beautiful display, nice, compact, great for making little round interfaces if you like, and it's in stock right now.
Okay.
On MPI.
Don't forget the code Noid. Save, save, save. It's new product time. I want to take you to wow, Tariff Town. Okay. So this is, you guessed it.
It's a new power supply from Raspberry Pi, which is interesting because they didn't need to make this, but they did anyways. And it's actually kind of a good USB PD power supply. So this is not a replacement for their 5-volt, 5-amp Raspberry Pi 5 power supply. It's a little bit more expensive because it supports all the different voltages for USB PD, which does make it really good for if you're using it for like LEDs or motors or charging big batteries where you need everyone like zoom in. It's very small.
We're going to zoom. Boop, boop, boop.
It supports 5.1 volts at 5 amps, which is rare. They usually don't. 9 volts at 5 amps, also rare. Usually they don't have 5 amps for anything but 20 volts. 12 volt support, which is not rare, but it's a lot of it's optional. It's not a required voltage. 15 volts and 20 volts. It's a captive cable, so you can't remove it. It's made in Cambodia, so you don't have to worry about it getting tariffed really high, which is nice. This one works with any voltage, but has a US plug, and the plug isn't removable. So if you want to use it in another country, you'll just need a mechanical adapter.
But do check the news to where you're going and what you want to do for your local tariff surcharges. Okay. 9.
Can you
8.
go wait,
7.
I was going to show the
6.
I didn't finish.
Oh, you're going to show it on the overhead?
Yeah, I was going to show on the overhead.
Okay, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I was trying to do it.
Yeah.
I forgot to do the overhead. I got to do it here. Yeah, sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah, okay.
You get so excited.
You're good.
Okay. So here I have it, and I want to show what this would actually be really good for is if people want to use this with our PD.
It's glowy.
It's very bright and it's very glowy, which means it's. No, hold on. Let me.
You can get it closer, I think.
Let me see if I can do that, and then maybe it's a little bit better. Okay, well, you can kind of see. So this is the 12 volt, but you can use our selectable PD adapter and get, this is, you can kind of see it, 9 volts. And what I like is, again, it does the 12 volts, it does the 15 volts, and it does the 20 volts. It doesn't do 18 volts, but 18 volts is like really rare. And of course, 5 volts. And the 5 volts, 5 amps is particularly nice because if you are, you can go back to the product. If you're...
yeah. Right there, this one?
Yes, click here.
Zoom.
Especially if you're doing stuff with like NeoPixels or you need a lot of amperage at 5 volts, and you don't want to get a DC power supply, you want to use like a USB PD with something like our Sparkle Motion boards. This is a good option because most 5 volt power supplies don't give you 5 amps.
Well, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Yeah.
We've got numbers.
Yeah, people asked. We had the alphabetical characters before Roman characters, and now we have numbers.
Yeah, these are cool.
Backwards and forwards.
Yeah.
So all the digits are also available now. They all need about 3 volts, about 50 milliamps or so. You just power them directly. If you're using something other than like slightly less than 5 volts or less than 3 volts, use a resistor. We have a guide on filaments and nudes, but just treat them like an LED with a forward voltage of about 3 volts and a maximum current of about 50 milliamps or so. I think it's always good to start with like a 200 ohm resistor and then move up and down, depending, to make sure they don't overheat.
Yeah. What's that song? 5, 8, 7, 8, 3, 0, 9. Anyways, start of the show. Besides you, Lady Ada, our team, our community, and everyone who's on this roller coaster, it's servo. That's why it was, not servo, it's solenoid. That's why the code was Noid. It's this.
Yeah, this is a I2C to 8-channel solenoid driver. This is, a common request that we've seen is people are like, I have to wire up a lot of solenoids. And I'm like, or like, unidirectional motors. And I'm like, yeah, you just like, there's no really easy way to do it. You have to like have all these transistors and flybacks and stuff. And I've noticed that people either have like 1 solenoid or 20 solenoids. Like no project really has like 3. It's often like, or 2. It's often like 8. So if you're making like your metallophone or your robot, or you're doing something with model trains, whatever, you have a lot of solenoids that you're trying to control. Maybe you work at the House in the Rock in Wisconsin, and you have to update all of these old solenoid-driven robotics. This would be a great board for you. So it uses I2C to a GPIO expander, the MCP 23017. That will give you 16 GPIO. What I like about it is it's push-pull, so it's really great for driving the transistors. So on the board itself, we've got 8 3-amp transistors. Each one has a flyback diode, and it has a little red LED to let you know when it's activated. They're by default off, so when you power it up, you're not going to like get any jitter or anything. And then over I2C, we've got code. The MCP 23017 is a very, very popular expander chip. So there's code in Python, Rust, Arduino, CircuitPython, MicroPython, whatever. Use port A as the solenoids, and then we also expose port B. So if you want to have 8 buttons or 8 LEDs or whatever, we also expose those. And then there's 3 address jumpers. So if you want to use it solderless, you can just actually plug and play, get it going immediately with no soldering. But if you solder closed those 3 jumpers, you can connect 8 of these for 64 total solenoids at once.
If you want to cosplay as Luke's chopped off hand from Empire Strikes Back, this is for you.
Definitely,
I'm stealing that joke from the chat.
Okay.
Yeah, it's funny.
Okay. That's it.
Yeah. Okay, that's new products. So beep beep blah, 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 blah. Noid is the code because you like pizza, and it's all Noids. We're gonna do top secret around here.
Okay.
Because the questions were that segment. We had to do it that way. Okay, what's this, Lady Ada?
So we're doing our first round of bones boards for the RP2350. This is the RP2350 ADA logger. I tend to start with the ADA logger. It's not as compact as the RP2040, but I did get everything fit in. And to make it a little bit more low power friendly, I added a external power supply that you can turn off the I2C and micro SD card. So as soon as I get these PCBs, we'll get them in a store, and then we're going to make more bones boards. So look forward to that.
And we have some footage from the latest build of our game, The Great Search. We'll have more on this soon. You'll be able to play it. It's free. We're going to use this to teach electronics and more, and there's also not a lot of female engineer leads inside of a video game to be heroes, so we thought we'd try this out and more. And that's top secret for this week.
Yay! Back in the vault.
That was our show tonight. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. We very much appreciate it. One quick question, because I just want to emphasize, is this part of our, tariff talk?
Tariff talk.
Do you think this is for the makers, or small business, or even large business? Do you think something like a shortage could happen if someone bought up a bunch of things because they're anticipating what's going to happen at this price point?
I don't think there's going to be a shortage. However, there is going to be increases on almost every product. And so, I mean, I'm not promising that this is not financial advice, but for a lot of stuff at Adafruit, like, again, it's like, even if we manufacture the PCB, the components that we get, the connectors, the espressive modules, whatever, the PCBs, the resistors, the LEDs, those, the batteries, the LiPo batteries, those come from oftentimes China. There's often no alternatives. And so those prices are going to start to go up a lot. And so
that's for everybody making anything.
That's for anybody. Yeah. I mean, there's LiPo batteries are not really made anywhere else in the world. So, I mean, there's not. I mean, I think Panasonic makes them in some other countries, but they're not available to you.
Yeah.
So there might be some people who like buy a bunch of stuff now to get ahead of the price increases that are likely to happen. But I think that there will not be a chip shortage. I think there just might be price inconsistencies because a lot of people aren't, like, I've already seen, like, I've changed some prices on stuff because I've gotten a tariff bill for it. And so, like, the price, I've increased it to add the 45% or whatever tariff. Other vendors have not. So you might see, like, price inconsistencies as tariffs hit different vendors at different times, or they're not even aware. Maybe they don't realize they have tariffs. So you're going to see price weirdnesses, especially if you have like a tariff of 125%. Like that makes a big difference in the final price. It's a doubling.
Yeah. So part of a bigger conversation we'll continue to have. We will be here all the way through. This time will pass either way. We may as well educate one another, help. This is something that's so outside our pay grade, but I know that there's things that we can do to find the right path forward, everyone. This has been an Adafruit production. Here is your moment of Zener. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.